Adeyemi couldn't believe his ears. For a few seconds, he stood frozen in the middle of the banquet hall, surrounded by laughter that had suddenly gone quiet. The air smelled of champagne and expensive perfume, yet everything felt sour. Aderonke's voice still echoed in his head, sharp and cold like broken glass. I can't marry a truck driver. Those words landed harder than any slap. He stared at her, searching her face for a trace of the woman he knew, the girl whose laughter once felt like music. But her eyes had changed. They looked through him, not at him. Around them, her fellow law graduates shifted uncomfortably, pretending to sip from their glasses as if politeness could erase humiliation. The DJ, sensing tension, killed the music. Only the soft hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. Adeyemi blinked fast, trying to stop the tears that gathered in his eyes. He had planned this day for months, saved every kobo, borrowed even, just to make her proud. He's hired this small hall in Ikeja because she had said she wanted something classy for her call to bar celebration. He even bought a ring, nothing flashy, but gold enough to show his sincerity. He had pictured her smiling, saying yes, hugging him before everyone. Instead, she looked at him like a stranger. His fingers trembled as he lowered the ring box slowly. Aderonke, he began, voice shaking. You can't mean that. You told me. Please, Adeyemi. She cut him off sharply, her voice carrying over the crowd. Don't embarrass me, I beg. Not here. He stared at her in disbelief. Around them, the hall seemed to shrink. He could feel every pair of eyes watching, every whisper slicing through his heart. His throat burned. He swallowed hard, forcing his voice to stay calm. So, that's what I am to you now? An embarrassment. She turned her face away, biting her lip. The silence between them felt heavy enough to crush him. For a moment, Adeyemi thought the ground would open and swallow him whole. Then slowly, he straightened his back, closed the ring box and slipped it into his pocket. His eyes glistened, but his voice came out soft and steady. Congratulations, barrister. He gave a faint smile, more pain than grace, then turned and walked toward the door. Behind him, someone whispered, Ah, God, see as the guy they cry. Another muttered, That's why I will never trust love. Adeyemi didn't look back. He pushed open the door and stepped outside into the humid Lagos night. The music resumed faintly behind him. Forced laughter, clinking glasses, but it all sounded distant, like echoes from another world. He walked until he reached the parking lot, where the smell of suya smoke drifted faintly from a nearby vendor. His vision blurred. He leaned against his old Nissan pickup, the same one he used for deliveries, and let the tears come. Slow, quiet, bitter tears that burned his chest. He pressed his palms against his eyes. How could she, he thought, how could the same girl who once said she will never leave me call me ordinary truck driver now? The thought pulled him backward into memory, back to where it all began. On a dusty afternoon in Ojota, years ago, when everything between them was still tender and true. He could still see her clearly. That first day she came to his store. The sun had been unforgiving, the kind that made the air shimmer like fire. The road buzzed with downfall conductors shouting destinations, Ojo Eleba, CMS, Lekki straight, and traders haggling over prices. Adeyemi, younger and full of restless energy, sat behind his wooden table piled high with oranges, pineapples, and fruits, wiping sweat from his brow. That was when he saw her. A slim girl, maybe 17 or 18, with skin the color of ripe almonds and a voice soft enough to calm chaos. She stood at the edge of his store, holding a small black nylon purse. Uncle, abeg, how much is your orange? She asked shyly. He laughed. Uncle, oh, abeg, oh, don't make me old before my time. My name na Adeyemi. Her lips curved into a small, embarrassed smile. Okay, Adeyemi, how much? He noticed her uniform, white shirt, faded blue skirt, worn slippers. Her voice carried something fragile, like she was trying hard to stay confident despite life's weight. Two for 20 naira, he said, but for you, it's free. Her eyes widened. Why? He shrugged. Because your smile pay pass money. She laughed then. A light musical sound that stuck in his head for days. She thanked him, took the oranges and left. But she came back the next day and the next. Sometimes to buy fruit, sometimes just to sit and talk. By the third week, they became inseparable in that innocent way two lonely souls recognize each other. She told him her name was Aderonke, and she lived with her mother's elder sister, a woman who complained about everything from her food to her presence. Even my wire form, she no one pay for me. Aderonke said one afternoon, her voice trembling. She said, what's the use that I won't go to university anyway? Adeyemi had stared at her, wiping his hands on his shorts. He saw the fear behind her smile, the quiet kind that comes from realizing nobody is fighting for you. He went silent for a long while. Adeyemi stayed awake all night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that girl's face, the way she had looked away when she said her aunt wouldn't pay her work fees, the small tremor in her voice when she said she might have to stop schooling. At dawn, he rose, washed his face at the small zinc basin by the door, and opened the metal box where he kept his savings. Inside were wrinkled naira notes. Money he had been gathering to start a proper fruit stand with a freezer. He counted it twice, then wrapped it in a brown paper. When he reached the store that morning, the air still smelled of wet dust from the night's rain. You came early, she said. He smiled. I couldn't sleep, oh. I bought something. He held out the small brown parcel. Take it. Go and register for your WAEC. Her mouth fell open. Adeyemi, no. I can't take this, please. You need these things for your business. He shook his head. You are my business now. If you fail this exam, everything you dreamt of dies here. I can always sell more oranges. You only get one chance. For a moment, she looked at him. Then tears filled her eyes. God will bless you, she whispered. She pressed the packet to her chest, and he had to look away because the way she was crying made his own throat burn. That day, the whole street seemed to know something had changed. Even Mama Nkechi, who sold roasted plantain nearby, teased him. Hey, fruit seller, don't fall in love, oh. Adeyemi laughed it off, but in his heart, he had already knew it was true. Every evening, she would stop by after lessons, sit on the low bench beside his table and tell him about school, about the teachers who shouted too much, about her dreams of wearing a lawyer's wig. He would listen quietly, pretending to arrange the fruits, just to hide how he was smiling. When the exam period came, he waited for her after every paper with chilled pure water and gala. She would sit there in her uniform, losing her shoes, sighing about English, maths, and he would tell her, we will pass them all. Sometimes they didn't talk. They just watched buses go by, the sun sinking behind the flyover. It was a simple happiness, uncomplicated and steady. Weeks turned into months. When her results came out, she ran all the way from her aunt's house to the market. He was packing up his fruit when she burst through the crowd shouting, Adeyemi, I passed all my papers. Before he could react, she threw her arms around him, laughing and crying at once. People clapped, someone whistled. He just stood there holding her carefully like she might vanish if she breathed too hard. After that day, everyone called them husband and wife. Even her aunt softened. She would wave when she saw him and say, in-law, you have come again, oh. Life settled into a rhythm. Mornings at the stall, evenings walking her home, quiet promises made under street lights. He began to plan bigger things, how to expand the stall, maybe buy a small truck of his own. One hot afternoon, she came running again, this time holding a large brown envelope. Her face glowed. Adeyemi, guess what? I just got admission, University of Lagos, to study law. For a second, he didn't move. Then he took the letter from her, shaking hands, read it twice and laughed. It was a deep, joyful sound that startled even him. He lifted her off the ground in a hug that drew cheers from nearby traders. That night, when he finally closed the stall and walked home, pride and fear mixed inside him. He was happy. God knew he was. But a small whisper in his chest asked how a man like him would fit into the world she was entering. He pushed the thought away. He told himself love was enough. Yet even as he lay on his bed listening to distant traffic, he couldn't shake the picture of her in a black gown, speaking polished English to people who had never touched dust. He smiled into the darkness and said softly, "My lawyer," not knowing that this was the beginning of the distance that would one day swallow them. At first, everything felt like a dream fulfilled. Aderonke's first semester started, and Adeyemi was the proudest man in Ojota. He told everyone who cared to listen that my woman don't enter university. Oh. She is in Unilag as a law student. He said it with the same pride other men reserved for new cars. Every Sunday after church, he would take a bus to Yaba, carrying a nylon bag packed with small things she might need. Provisions, fruit, a little cash folded neatly in an envelope. The campus amazed him each time he went. Tall buildings, young men in neat jeans and clean sneakers, girls with perfumes that smelled like imported flowers. When Aderonke waved at him from afar, books clutched to her chest. He always stood taller. He would help her carry the bag to her hostel gate, wipe sweat from his forehead and listen as she talked about lectures and moot courts and how hard constitutional law was. But slowly things began to change. Not in a way he could point out, but in the tiny spaces between their words. Her phone calls grew shorter. When he came on weekends, she often said, Adeyemi, today I'm busy. We have group discussion. He would nod and say, no wahala, my lawyer, forcing a smile. One evening, as he waited for her under the tree near the hostel, two girls walking past giggled. Is that your uncle again? One whispered loudly. Aderonke laughed, not cruelly, but not kindly either. He's just a friend, she said. Those three words cut deeper than he would admit. He sat in traffic that night on his way back to Ketu, staring out the window of the Danfo while streetlights flickered across his face. The driver's radio played old love songs. Beside him, a woman sold gala through the window. She looked tired but determined, and for a second he thought of Aderonke's aunt and how far they had all come. He whispered a prayer that success wouldn't change her heart. Back at his small room, he pulled out a notebook where he'd written their shared plans, ideas for her graduation, the house he wanted to build, how many babies they were going to have, even baby names scribbled jokingly at the corner. He looked at the list and smiled sadly. Months rolled by. Exams, holidays, another session. Each visit to Unilag cost him more. Her needs were growing and he worked double, driving produce trucks at night just to keep sending money. His hands grew rough, his eyes tired, but his heart never wavered. Then came the day she introduced him to her new friends at a restaurant outside campus. This is Adeyemi, she said. Her friend, a tall, fair boy with a wristwatch that screamed money, nodded lazily. Nice to meet you, bro. You into logistics or what? Adeyemi smiled politely. Something like that. They chatted a bit, but Adeyemi could tell he didn't fit into their world. Their jokes were different. The English faster, the laughter thinner. After that evening, he stopped visiting as often. He told himself he was giving her space to grow. Still, he sent the money every week. One rainy night, she called him out of the blue. Adeyemi, she said, her voice soft. I don't even know how to thank you. If not for you, I won't even be in school. He smiled in the dark. Just make me proud. That's all I want. I will, she promised. You will see, when I become a big lawyer, I will never forget you. He believed her. As the semesters passed, her calls became letters, then text, then sometimes even silence. He held on to every small sign of affection, the way she still called him, my Adeyemi, when she remembered The time she asked about his mother, the rare weekend she visited and cooked rice in his small kitchen, laughing like old times. But beneath it all, change was creeping in, slow, quiet, and unstoppable. He noticed she now wore perfume brands he couldn't pronounce. And when he said, "Your dress is fine, no," she smiled absent-mindedly and said, "Oh, this one, my cosmate bought it in Dubai." One afternoon, he went to deliver fruit to a company in Victoria Island. As he passed the law faculty building, he saw her standing by the gate, talking to that same fair boy. They were laughing, her hand resting lightly on the man's arm. He stopped across the road, hidden by parked cars, and watched for a few seconds. Then he turned away before the ache in his chest could turn into tears. That night, sleep refused to come. He lay on his bed, listening to rain hitting the zinc roof, whispering prayers that she would remember where she started. By the time Aderonke entered her final year, Adeyemi had almost finished paying off the small truck he used for deliveries. He wanted to surprise her, to show her that he too was growing. He imagined picking her up on her graduation day, the two of them driving through 10 Mainland Bridge with the wind in their faces. He didn't know that by then she was already practicing her new English, the kind that swallowed consonants and made her sound like the people on television. When her call to bar invitation finally came, he cried from joy. He knelt down that evening, thanking God. "She made it," he said aloud. "My lawyer made it." He began planning a small celebration in Ikeja. Just close friends, her colleagues, a cake with her name iced in gold. He wanted to give her one more memory, one last proof that love, not money, carried her this far. He didn't know that love was about to be tested in a way he never imagined. The night of the celebration arrived like a promise fulfilled. Adeyemi ironed his only good shirt until it looked almost new, sprayed a bit of cheap cologne and checked his pocket again for the small velvet box. The ring wasn't expensive, but it had cost him months of saving. He'd chosen it because the tiny gold band reminded him of the first time Aderonke smiled at him. Simple, bright, but genuine. The hall in Ikeja was glowing when he arrived. Strings of fairy lights twinkled across the ceiling, music drifted from the speakers, and young lawyers in black gowns laughed loudly, glasses of wine raised high. He stood at the door for a moment, taking it all in, the elegance, the perfume, the polished laughter. It felt like a different world for the one that had built them. Then he saw her. Aderonke moved through the crowd like she belonged there, wig in place, gown flowing behind her smile, practiced to perfection. When she spotted him, she waved, but her eyes flickered quickly around as if checking who was watching. He didn't notice that small hesitation. His heart was too full. He walked up to her, greeted a few of her friends. "My barrister," he said proudly, holding her hands. She smiled faintly. "Yemi, I didn't know you would actually come," she said, half surprised. "How I no go come? Now today God finally finish our story." He didn't know that for her, the story had already taken another turn. After dinner, when the MC announced that anyone who wanted to give a toast could come forward, Adeyemi's friend nudged him. "Go and talk now. I think this is the right time. She will like it." He rose, nervous but glowing, and walked to the front. The microphone felt heavy, his palms damp, but when he looked at her, the words came easily. "Ronke, I don't have book English like you," he began, and a ripple of laughter went round. "But I know what it means to love person wey God sent to you. I remember when she no even get money, how she cried that night. Today, see am, we dey celebrate barrister Aderonke." He paused, smiling, eyes glistening. "All I ask now is, make we continue this journey together." Then he went down on one knee, held out the ring. The laughter stopped. Fox froze in mid-air. Aderonke stared at him as if she was seeing a ghost. "Adeyemi, what is this?" "It's me," he said softly. "It's us." She shook her head quickly, panic flashing in her eyes. "Please, please, get up. Don't do this here, don't." He blinked. "Why?" "Because this is not the place." "Aderonke, I said get up," she snapped. Her voice was louder now and people were watching. She swallowed hard, then said the words that would echo in his mind for years. "I can't marry a truck driver now. The hall gasped. Someone whispered, "Truck driver!" Another laughed awkwardly. Aderonke's face was pale, but she stood her ground. "I'm sorry," she added quickly, "but please, not here." Adeyemi's hands shook. For a moment, he thought he hadn't heard her right. The ring box hung open in his palm like a wound. Then he closed it slowly, pocketed it, and forced a small nod. "Congratulations, barrister," he said quietly. "You've truly made it." He turned and walked away. Outside, the night was thick with humidity and the faint smell of suya. The laughter inside the hall sounded distant, muffled by glass and pride. He walked to his old Nissan pickup, leaned against it and stared at the streetlight. He remembered the day she would first come for oranges, the way she would say thank you, like it meant everything. He remembered her tears when he gave her his savings, the night she would call him my Yemi. Now she was gone, even while standing in the same city, breathing the same air. He started the engine, the rumble breaking the silence as he drove through the empty Lagos roads, neon lights flashing across his windshield. He didn't know where he was heading, maybe home, maybe nowhere. All he knew was that something inside him had cracked quietly open and there was no fixing it tonight. By the time he reached Third Mainland Bridge, the wind rushing through the window dried his tears. He kept his eyes on the dark water below and whispered, "God, don't let me hit her." The city stretched ahead, cold, glittering, indifferent. Behind him in the bright hall, Aderonke laughed again for the cameras, but her smile trembled. Somewhere deep inside, the shadow of the girl who once sat under a market umbrella eating oranges began to stir uneasily. And Adeyemi, driving into the night, carried both love and loss in his chest. Silent passengers that would follow him for years to come. The next morning, Lagos woke up as if nothing had happened. Buses honked, hawkers shouted, and somewhere the generator coughed awake, but Adeyemi moved through it like a ghost. He went to his stall, arranged the fruit the way he always did, yet every orange looked dull to him. People greeted him. He smiled faintly and sat softly. Inside, something had gone still. For days, he replayed the scene in his mind, the music fading, the laughter dying, Aderonke's voice cutting the air like a blade. "I can't marry a truck driver." Each time the memory surfaced, his chest tightened. He didn't hate her. He hated how much he still loved her. Life, however, didn't stop. Rent was due, trucks needed drivers, and the markets didn't care about heartbreak. So Adeyemi began to work. He worked longer than before, starting his deliveries before sunrise, sometimes not returning until the street lights were already humming. The men at the motor park noticed his silence. "Adeyemi, this one you know dey talk again, wetin happen?" He would shrug. "Nothing, I just want to make money." Money became his new prayer, but not the greedy kind. This was the money of purpose, the one earned with bruised hands and steady eyes. Every evening, he dropped small envelopes into an iron box and whispered, "One day, I will build something big." Months slipped by, then a year. Aderonke's name stopped catching in his throat. Though sometimes when a young woman with a similar laugh passed his stall, he would look up too quickly. Lagos remained a teacher, hard, loud, unforgiving, but he had learned his freedom. He began reading at night, borrowed textbooks from a cousin who studied accounting. He read about profit, logistics, investment, even management principles he barely understood. The more he read, the more he saw how business worked beyond the motor park. He saved and bought a second truck. When one broke down, the other ran. By the next rainy season, people at Ojota began calling him Oga Adeyemi. It made him smile sometimes. It was a small reminder that a man could build something from dust if he refused to stop. Still, there were nights when the loneliness pressed heavy. He would eat yam and stew alone. The sound of rain on the roof, the only company. Those were nights he whispered to God, not asking for Aderonke's return, but for peace strong enough to forgive her. He told himself that pain, if handled right, could become purpose. One afternoon, while offloading goods at a small supermarket in Ikeja, he met a customer, a middle-aged Nigerian woman with an American accent. She had come to set up a supply chain for imported produce. She watched the way he coordinated his men, how he treated them with respect, how he kept records neatly on a small notepad. "You are quite organized," she said. Adeyemi smiled, wiping sweat from his face. "I try, ma. You ever thought of studying business formally?" He laughed. "I finished secondary school, ma, but That one don't pass my level now. But she shook her head. Don't say that. There are programs everywhere. If you want it enough, you'll find the door. She gave him her card. Email me when you can. He kept the card tucked inside his wallet for weeks, afraid to hope. Then one evening, after another long day, he opened it and stared at the email address printed neatly across the top. Something stirred inside him, a small spark he hadn't felt in years. That night, he walked to a cyber cafe, the type with slow computers and noisy generators, and asked a young attendant to help write an email. He didn't have the fancy English, so he wrote the way he spoke. Good evening, ma. I am the driver you met at Ikeja supermarket. You talk say I fit still study. I want to try. When he clicked send, his heart raced like it used to when he waited for Aderonke's calls. He didn't know that a simple message would be the first step toward a different kind of love, the love a man builds for his own life.